welcome everyone to the Shenandoah Film Festival. My name's Dan Felbush. I am the executive director of this 501c3 nonprofit, and I am so happy to have Jack Hillebrecht. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Hillebrecht, yes.
I was like going through different methods on how to best pronounce
You
that.
are not alone. That was pretty much the nobody ever knows.
Yeah, my last name is Feldbush, and when they try to spell it too, it's always just so different. And you always you go through this typical process of just trying to go through tell them this is how you pronounce it, this is how you spell it too, and it's just really odd. So this is more than just a discussion about film; it's about people with difficult last names right here. So we have your film. It's called Dream Girl. Submitted in our and playing in our youth film festival that's going on right now until early July. And I was really interested in your background because you have been making films for about 9 years right now.
Yes, I mean I just that's probably what it said on the Film Freeway page, but
Mhm.
I just celebrated the 10th anniversary of my first YouTube upload on the 16th. So it's been 10 years now. But yes,
Does it feel like 10 years?
Um, it feels like my whole life at this point. I'm 20, so 10 years is basically half my life. So the half that I can easily remember, yeah, it's basically my life. Yeah.
Well, 10 years of filming videos within YouTube too. So I can't believe YouTube is even 10 years old too. So
YouTube,
you've
I think,
seen a
is like
lot of the
15
progression
years.
of
Yeah.
YouTube too. What got you first interested in doing YouTube videos?
Oh,
Deep questions here.
probably. Well, I mean, my first videos, and I still do these. My first film I made was a Lego stop motion, and I saw, that was. I mean, that it is still a thing now, but like back in like the 2008, 2009, 2010, this was huge, and there was a whole generation of kids that grew up watching this stuff, and I wanted to make uh I wanted to make that, and then eventually, a lot of those Lego animators would go on and they'd start making live action stuff as well, and I'd see like these people that I like idolized going into like more mainstream film as well, and then I started like experimenting with different formats, and now I still do the stop motion, but I also love making like more traditional like live action films as well, just because of that influence.
That's interesting that you wanted to do stop motion at first because, one of the things that stands out with stop motion is the amount of time it takes to actually put that together. So, as a filmmaker, are you considered to be do you take your work in a patient method to make sure that you get it right? Do you try to, because a lot of these filmmakers out there, they try to do quantity instead of quality.
Yeah, I definitely try to make everything look as polished as I can. It's kind of we've kind of seen this over the past 10 years. We've seen this like paradigm shift over like the kinds of films that I make, because if you were to go and look at my first film ever, it's shot at 1 frame per second, and I did it in like an afternoon, which means that like it's like 3 minutes long, and as opposed to like the standard I shoot it now, it's like 24 pictures for every second, but it was literally just like one. It's basically a slideshow.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it's like now I still do stop motion, but it's my videos got really long and then they got really short because I started taking the quality more seriously. And now, like, a lot of the stop motion films that I do are shorter, but I definitely I there's pros and cons to doing stop motion and live action for sure. But I guess what I like about live action is how it's far more social, as opposed to like I had way more fun like shooting Dream Girl and like getting to talk to people about it, and working with people on it. Then like there's something really great about just like getting in the zone in your basement for like 8 hours straight and just like doing stop motion. But it is definitely it's less social, and sometimes I feel like a lot of the fun of filmmaking is just getting to know people that you're working with.
Interesting. So, how do you go about going to get to know people more, especially when you're working together to produce film?
Yeah, I the short answer is that I rarely cast people like total strangers. It's usually people that I'm at least either really close friends with or just have like a passing um uh like knowledge of. Like my um Dreamgirl was made for a class at Boston University that I took last semester, and my cinematographer and co-star was literally just like somebody that I knew from class. And I say both just because it was one of the challenges of making this film was just the fact that we had extremely tight restrictions. I'm like, I'm taking film classes, but there's only so much you can do with COVID. So I could only fit so many people safely in my tiny dorm room. So I ended up just having one other person involved in the production, and the two of us just shared every job. And somehow it came out, I think, in a way that like you wouldn't know that unless you watch the credits.
Plus, doing filmmaking, even at such an early age too, you must have seen an evolution of the type of stories that you wanted to tell as well too, from back then too.
100%, 100%.
How did that go? What kind of
I
stories did you start off with, and going to the natural progression of Dream Girl?
That's a great question because uh just for most of my filmmaking career, I just really loved seeing Lego characters give dramatic monologues about how angsty they are and just beat each other up. And that's really all I wanted to do for a while. And I it was about like it was only in the past couple of years that I kind of really started seeing filmmaking as like an art and like something I can do, used to say things. And now like the kinds of stories that I tell are just utterly unrecognizable because they all pretty much, to make a film, there needs to be some kind of theme that very much resonates with me personally. And I think that a lot of my films in the past couple of years have been very much inspired by my own life, and I kind of see them as like allegories for my life in some way. And there's like this therapeutic process of like getting to share about my life, but using like fictional stories and characters. And it's not perfect in terms of like the like 1-to-1 ratio of my life and the films, but it's definitely like I need to have a very personal investment in the story, and uh, the themes need to be full of heart for sure. And something like Dreamgirl was something that I just like. It's not going to get tons of clicks on YouTube or anything because of it has Lego Batman beating up Lego Voldemort or something. But it's just a story that I really, really wanted to tell because it came from just something that I felt inside me that I really needed to share.
So early on, or even today, so putting these YouTube videos together, they weren't focused on trying to get the most views out there, becoming the next Mr. Beast. That's a YouTube reference for the young kids that I just looked up. I'm just kidding. So that it's more on just telling different stories that come to you. How do you get these ideas for your different films?
That's definitely how it is now. But like when I was definitely like playing the algorithm, like in my biggest success arguably in my career was this Star Wars stop motion I made when I was 13, and it has like 250,000 views now, and people still say like, I grew up with this, which is crazy because I don't think it's like even close to like the best thing I've made, but definitely making things that people already know they want to see gets you ahead. But to directly answer the question, I think that the where stories come from is just from at least the kind of stories I want to tell now is just like uh living life like the best. Like I am very fortunate to be a film student at Boston University, but most of what I've learned about what makes a good story is just from living and like putting myself out there, getting my heart broken, um, and making friends and losing friends and falling in love and falling out of love and just everything that comes with like the teenage experience. I think has definitely just taught me like I guess what it means to be human, and I feel like what it means to be human is definitely what makes a core part of like the stories that I want to tell.
Mhm. You mentioned about how YouTube videos, they focus on algorithm, trying to get the most views out there too. And this is my
Yeah.
personal opinion that has contributed to the availability of videos out there that are education, not really fully they're entertainment value too, but I feel like people could get more out of different entertainment if they watched like maybe youth filmmakers or independent stories that are being told through that too. So do you think how YouTube is set up and the focus for making money is good for society out there? I personally, I don't think that is a good way for society to be, because it's all about money and it kind of dumbs down society over time.
Right. And like, I think it's kind of like a yes and no,
Yeah.
because like I have like, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't enjoy watching like videos of frogs being cute that have like a
Yeah.
billion views, like literally a billion views. But like at the same time, it does kind of screw over like a lot of like I've seen there are definitely like really amazing short films available for free on YouTube. It's just the
Mhm.
problem is because of the way the website is wired, and I guess what we as humans, I guess, just like are like inclined to click to. It usually gets like lost in the fold compared to, and like even like a lot of my favorite like YouTubers have made like they like started out as like making stuff to, like to get views, and then they tried like making a film, and then it has like the least views on their channel. And I think that definitely like is very unfortunate, and like I wish we could have it both ways, where you know you could watch cute viral stuff like teenage kids breaking stuff or something for fun, and also like people who are trying to make something with like you know something bigger to say also get a platform. I definitely know like my YouTube channel, I still post stuff, but it's like effectively dead, where when I was making stuff as like a young teenager, videos that I was making were getting tens or hundreds of thousands of views. And like I think the trailer for Dreamgirl, which was like one of the last things I posted, like didn't even like cross 100, or like maybe just crossed 100, something like that. It's just, it makes me sad that like, I know you're wrong, I'm so thankful for like getting to make those like Star Wars videos like growing up, but it is kind of like frustrating that like I feel like I've grown so much as a filmmaker since then, but like YouTube hasn't.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree too. I guess in moderation, more or less, just trying
Yeah.
to balance that too. But you also have to, I feel like, try to open yourself up to new things or new experiences, if from an entertainment perspective out there too, because too much of a certain thing is not good for you. Totally agree with that. So let's talk about Dream Girl. So how did you come up with that? And I'm not trying to give away too much because we want people to actually enjoy it. So how did you come up with the idea of what you put together for Dream Girl?
Right. So I guess a lot of it, like I was saying earlier, uh just comes from my own experience. And I'm someone who like in the past year has, I guess, just started to um question like my like gender presentation and identity, and like how I want to be perceived. And it's really complicated, and I feel like there wasn't really a movie out there that kind of shows my specific experience, because and there are like lots of, I don't mean to knock the films that are out there, because there are lots of like wonderful films about um like people who are very much like trans and gay, but like that's not exactly me, because I like to, but how I identify is definitely very complicated. And what it ultimately comes down to is that I admire femininity in the sense that I am attracted to it like romantically, but also want to embody it. And that's something that I feel like I haven't really seen done in a movie before, because I feel like even as we enter a more progressive world, like we still have so far to go, is that we're only just now seeing very concrete stories of people experimenting with gender, but it's like very much in a binary. It's like a story about a trans man or a trans woman, and that's like wonderful and very important, and we need those stories. But I think that's my story is a little different, and I wanted to tell something that was inspired by what I go through.
Did you have any concerns about putting something like that together as you were putting, as you say here, like we're at the very start of having more progressive views on how people present themselves? Um, or was this, well, did you, when you came up with the story, you thought, yes, this is how I want to go, and you had this straight focus for this?
It's funny you mention just like uh the way, like how I wanted to tell the story, especially because, and I don't mean this to knock him, but my professor for this class really didn't get what I was going for at first from the way I explained it. And I definitely, literally, because he kept saying he was confused because, again, what I was saying before about how, like, as a society, I think we still kind of put like gender experimentation and fluidity and all this like stuff, we still want to put it in a binary. And I think just when he heard the story I was trying to tell, he's like, well, I feel like when he saw like how I looked, and that's just like an outfit that I love wearing. Although it's funny side tangent with that, I no longer have that outfit because I accidentally threw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Because at one point in the film, it's in a garbage can, and I just forgot to take it out. So that costume is gone now, and I'm really sad because I really love that outfit. But as for what I was initially getting at, it's just that he was like, you should be like, I think he expected me to look more like a drag queen with like a giant wig and like, lots of pinks and whatnot. And like, I don't mean to sound like, because he was definitely like trying to be very supportive, and like I'm not like knocking him, but I think he just didn't get that that's not my like gender experience, and that's not what I wanted to tell. And so I think it definitely took to me like, I had this like opposition from my professor who was constantly trying to say, maybe you should try it this way. And I definitely took some of the suggestions, and they were very important to the development of the film. But I definitely learned that I had to stick to my guns with this, like the bare bones, like the story that I wanted to tell, like representing my truth in this film.
Like when you put the story together too, did you wonder, I'm going to focus this to try to make this a success and conform to what society sees as a good film, or you just wanted to tell your story? And is that how you go about your filmmaking? Where I feel like a lot of films out there, especially commercially available films, just focus on how society views certain aspects out there too. So how do you do that as yourself? Do you try to go be commercially successful, or do you try to just tell your stories?
It's a great question, and I definitely think it's like a little of both, but definitely leaning more towards wanting to tell my own story, just because like I definitely made this film with like film festivals in mind, especially like when I shot this in March. Like it was kind of a perfect window where like Pride Month was approaching, and I knew that like there'd be a lot of like queer centric film festivals like taking submissions. But something there are definitely a lot of just like really like as I like to call it, just like aggressively weird ideas that I knew wouldn't land with everybody, but I just really wanted to tell it. And I was like hoping that it would be commercially successful and like people would get into it, but ultimately like I knew this was something that I had to do for me. And I think that's ultimately my answer is that yes, I had to make this film in a certain way for me that would be a little confusing at times, but I don't think I think if a I think it was Ryan Johnson who said that like if 100% of people like a movie that I've made, then I haven't done my job right. I'm paraphrasing. I probably butchered the quote, but that was the spirit of it.
Yeah, that's good. So after you're done with this, how do you get your next idea for a film too? Because you have that sense, I bet, of satisfaction that you're complete with this project too. But then it's like, now what do I do as a filmmaker and a storyteller?
I That's the thing. I have gotten into some really bad habits this year where I kind of have just been juggling. At one point when I was making Dream Girl, I basically had 4 projects that were in various stages of development and production that I was like, ooh, I like this, but like I need to come back to it later.
Yeah.
And so like now I kind of have like 4 projects that I wanted to do in 2021, and I've like finished 2 of them, and like 2 of them are still in the works, but I'm getting to them now. It was just like, it was also just the fact that like I was just spending 2 of them are animated, and I was spending so much time on animation that I think I just kind of burnt out, and I needed to do something fresh and different, like with real people. And I'm starting back on those animated projects now, but I definitely just like needed a break for my own mental health and do something different. Yeah.
And since this is a youth film festival, we'll close out on this question because we've been talking for close to a half an hour now, which has gone very quickly too. You're a very interesting person, so I'm interested to see where you go with future storytelling with this. Is since you've been doing this for 10 years, and this is a festival that's geared towards young kids. So what advice would you give to a youngin out there who is interested to get into film? What should they first do?
I think, see, this isn't necessarily what I did for the longest time. I kind of, settled into a rhythm of just like, it's like what will make a movie that people will like. But like you have to, like whatever you make, it doesn't have to be good, but you just have to really, really love what you're doing and really, really believe in what you're doing. And like I made a lot of films in my early years that were like total disasters, but the ones that I like really had a good time making and just really cared about the story I was trying to tell, those were the ones that I remember and that mattered, I think, to me.
Well, thank you so much, Jack, for taking time out of your busy day just to talk with us a little bit about film and about your history with this. And I do appreciate you sharing a little bit about yourself in your great short little film, Dream Girl.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Sure.
we had so much fun.
And you can view Jack's film as well as about 45 other films and filmmakers by going to shenfilms.com to purchase tickets, which benefits various charities out there and helps our small charity and organization grow too.